Okay. Excuse me. Come on. There we go. Okay. And we will do that. Move that over to the other screen. Drag that down a little bit. And live chat, and we're all good, and this and that. And there we go. Hope you folks are having a good Sunday or Monday, depends on where you live. Happy time of day. Nathan, how you doing? Good morning from Ohio. Painting some 3D printed Maid Marines this morning. Nice. Coffee time, indeed. I'm drinking some delightful coffee right here. Randall says, morning. Good morning from Middle Tennessee. Got some Infinity Ariadne. Ariadna? Is that what it is? Ariadna? I'm bad at pronunciation. Got some Infinity Ariadna models in an FLGS model swap, and the store owner told me the new ones are hard to get. Sad face. Maybe Konflikt 47 is my future. Could be. Could be. Dragonfire, morning from Quebec. How you doing? BF Bulldog, good time of day from a moist Yukon, Oklahoma. Yes, it is also moist here. It has been sprinkling and splattering most of the morning and some of the night. Last time I looked at the weather thingy on my app, it's basically supposed to rain through Thursday, and then it's supposed to be lovely and sunny after this upcoming Thursday. But up until that Thursday, blah, you know. So I don't know. We probably need the rain. Who knows? My wife would. My wife would know. Maid Marines, waifu 40K. That's awesome. Nice. Fungazi, how you doing? Good morning from lovely Washington, D.C. James, good morning from breezy Surrey, UK, painting a gnome Oathbreaker paladin. After that, I have a tactician droid from Star Wars Shatterpoint to make a start on. Nice. Rod Demore, how you doing? This will be interesting as always. I hope so. I hope to hear stuff about the new version of the game. Indeed. Now, I'll be honest. I literally got it like on Wednesday or Thursday, and I have not particularly had a chance to go through the rules, but I have looked basically through the box. So the box is, here. It's a big chunky box. This is the 2-player starter, basically. But they also have, and we can look at the website a little bit later, they've got like a starter for just one faction or a starter for another faction and all that kind of stuff. But this is kind of a 2-player thing. Hello from Newfoundland. Considering dipping my models in super glue so the arms stop falling off. I don't know if that'll work, but maybe. Morning from Light Jacket Weather, Norway. Getting back into the hobby after 2-year hiatus. Spearhead pulled me back in. Well, that's very interesting to hear. Welcome back, though. Good morning from Cleveland. How you doing, Joseph? Let's see here. Good morning from Columbus, Ohio. Stripping my old Zombicide zombies for a new repaint. Nice. Tip-top time of day, folks. How you doing, VJ Morph? JJ, how you doing? El Rondorio, how you doing? Hi from Farmington Hills, Michigan. How you doing? Good afternoon from the UK, Steve. Happy Sunday, everyone. Painting some Battletech models for my Jade Falcon Remnant forces. Nice. Good morning from Nutley, New Jersey. Morning from sunny Milwaukee. I'm heading to Grognard's in Illinois during this. Oh, that's good. Well, I was going to say it's not sunny, but as I say that and look outside, I see all of a sudden the sun coming out. So, you know, it goes one way or the other all the time. Good morning from sunny Saskatchewan. Good Sir Adam. Renovations to our new HQ isn't done yet, so I have a second week to print minis. Nice. Morning from chilly Quebec City. Konflikt 47 here, new one. Nice. John Ashley Smith, howdy. Good morning from West Virginia. Excited about your upcoming game, and it has inspired me to get through my Gunpla backlog to prepare. Yeah, so the next game that Vince and I are doing for Snarl, the zine, It'll be coming out early-ish November. So it'll either be the first or second Friday of November. We haven't nailed that down completely yet, but it'll be coming out early November. And unlike other years where we don't tell you anything about the game until it comes out, we're like, well, let's change that up some. Let's try some different marketing tactics. And so the new game that's going to be coming out in Snarl, which is a PDF only, but you can print it and make a little booklet if you want to, because it's designed to do that. Here's last year's Snarl. This one had the Great Goblin Argle Bargle in it, but you can print it out and make a little zine and then, staple it if you want to. And there's all kinds of stuff in there. There's some Death Wizards content, and there's I saw some Majestic 13 content, But then, of course, in the front, there's this game called The Great Goblin Argle Bargle, and there's goblins. Anyway, so we're making another one of those like we do, and it's going to have a game in it called Chrome Rangers. And Chrome Rangers is going to be a mech game, but instead of it being like a Battletech 6mm mech game where you have a bunch of little, mechs that are supposed to be 30 meters tall or 20 meters tall or whatever, but they're about the size of like a Primera Space Marine. Instead, these are going to be 28mm mechs. So you're going to have a mech that's going to be between 6 and 8 inches tall. And you can use your Imperial Knight, you could use your Chaos Knight, you could use the Storm Surge from the Tau, you could use that big skinny guy from the Eldar. Like, you can use whatever kind of robot you want. You can 3D print something, you can kit bash something, you can do whatever you want to use. Just needs to be roughly between 6 and 8 inches tall. And you only have one per person. You have one and I have one, and we play against each other. There'll be more coming out about it. We talk about it a little bit more in the podcast that goes live tomorrow. Vince and I also have a podcast called The Snarlcast. So if you're interested, go take a look at that as well. If you just go to your podcast thingy of choice and just type in Snarlcast, you'll find it. Or you can go to snarlingbadger.com/Snarlcast. I think that's right. Anyway. Nonetheless, I'm glad to hear that people are looking forward to it, because we've been talking about it since we released the information about it at Nova. So, all right. Good morning from Marlborough, Mass. How you doing? Morning, all. Just finished a bike ride. Going to make some coffee and work on Kill Team Beginner Box. Thinking Crimson Fists. Neat. Let's see here. There we go. Good morning from Florida. Went to my first Wargames convention this weekend with QuestCon Orlando, and I learned that I learned about here last show. So last time that we did the show, you learned about QuestCon, and then you went. That's cool. That's very cool. I hope you had a good time at the convention. Gaming conventions are just a lot of fun. Even little tiny ones and stuff like that, they're still fun. There's a smallish one here in town. It's bigger than TMX. It's probably 300 people, but it is not a wargaming convention. It is a tabletop gaming convention. So RPGs and board games are the main thing, but there are also some other games as well. But mostly board games and RPGs. I've been thinking about maybe whether I should run something or not. It's in November, so I've got very little bit of time to start thinking about it, but I might be thinking about it. So, I mean, it's really close. I wouldn't even have to get a hotel room. It's lovely. Let's see here. Good afternoon from Grey Skies of Central Sussex, UK. I'm updating my solo September activity for this week and considering my pile of opportunity. Nice. Nightwind, good morning. Black City Games, hey, I was wondering if Konflikt 47 would pass the grandpa test for you. So generally I'm not into historical games that much, and I'm almost really never into World War II games, not even World War II video games anymore, because I just personally don't want to make a game out of stuff that my wife's grandpa went through. You know what I mean? He was a Marine raider in the Pacific Theater in World War II. and he never talked about it. And so I don't, so for me, and other people who want to play other, I'm not telling other people who want to play World War II stuff or whatever, that they shouldn't. And again, like, I wouldn't have personally have a problem playing, I don't know, Napoleonics. None of those guys are around anymore. Heck, even World War One stuff is there's not. But generally, I enjoy more weird World War II, World War One. Like Trench Crusade is basically like very weird World War One. And Conflict 47, you got a lot of laser tanks and and power armor and all kinds of stuff like that. So that's not, for me, it's more interesting. Also, if you look at the title card here, you can see there's a lot of that kind of blue plasma looking stuff, right? And I love painting blue plasma stuff. That is the Rift technology. That's the thing I need to sit down and read the book too, because I want to see if they've changed the lore. Because the old lore, the way I remember it was that when we did I think it's the Trinity test, it's like the earliest nuclear test that we did out in the desert or whatever. When we did that in Conflict 47, like everything up to that point, the timeline was the same. And then we did that, boop, and then it tore a little hole in reality, and there was, I think, a radio signal coming out of it. And we started listening to the radio signal and decrypted it, and then it taught us all kinds of new kinds of technology. And then we started winning World War II, the Allies, like hardcore. And then we nuked, I believe it was Dresden. So we were that much farther ahead, of course, because of this new technology, and we nuked Dresden. And then it ripped a little hole over there, and then the forces left over there started listening to it, and then all of a sudden we're back in kind of head-to-head World War II, because now it's like, they've got the Allies have the big technology, and now so do the Axis, and so that's kind of why it's Conflict 47, because the war is continuing on past 45. That's the general high level of the lore that I remember. So I want to go back and look and see if that's it. But now they're putting more weight behind the technology, and they refer to it as rift tech because of those little rifts that got ripped in reality when we were testing nukes. So anyway, let's see here. Greetings from Germany. Just about to start my second ever game of Frostgrave solo. Nice. Afternoon from current sunny Newcastle, UK. Currently painting moss on a scratch-built wizard's tower. That's always fun. Scratch-built stuff is fun. Afternoon from sunny Puckle Church in the UK. Working on some Kings of War stuff today after the exciting news 4th is due in November, which was released last weekend at Clash of Kings tournament. Well, that's cool. Let's see here. Another good morning from Middle Tennessee. Weather is pretty glorious today. Cleaning the bench and doing some organization today. I never do that. I really should. I haven't been able to much lately, a little bit, just because been trying to get everything of value, whether financial or sentimental value, out of my mom's condo. We close on the sale on Wednesday, this upcoming. I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday. It's the 24th, which I think is Wednesday. Yeah. So we were there yesterday, moving furniture that we want to keep. The people, or the organization that's buying the place is kind of one of those cash for homes kind of place, but they seem very trustworthy, and they're lowballing on the cost, but they're not requiring any. They've gone through and looked at it, but there's no inspections, there's no repairs, and anything that we leave behind, they're just going to get rid of. So we don't have to empty the place out, which is really good because the place is really full. My mom definitely loved to buy little things. Like in the last several years, Temu has become a real scourge, at least in my mom's condo. So so we've been working on that, and we'll be working on it Monday and Tuesday as well. I can't work on it this afternoon, because I have to edit the podcast so they can go live tomorrow. But so after Wednesday, at least, then I won't have to be as concerned about the condo anymore, because it'll be out of our hands. So there's that. And then maybe I can do some, I don't know, I'll take some time to try to do some organization in here for one thing, and then also maybe let's say my hobby desk downstairs, and see where it goes. Now my garage is mostly full of stuff, and it's going to get a little bit fuller the next couple of days. So moving some stuff from the basement to the garage to help be able to move things around the basement, that plan got laughed at by the universe. And so, you know, that's where we're at. Wives know most things, or at least they think they do. Sure. Hi from Edinburgh. Love your show. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. Good morning from the Pocket Dimension. JP Got Rockets. How you doing? Converting Seraphon Spearhead into Cthulhu Murloc Fishman. That's you got my attention. That's a lot of fun. Very fun hobby project. The small scale of Spearhead makes these bigger conversion projects doable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What is Konflikt 47? I've never heard of it. So Konflikt 47 is a game that made by Warlord Games. And Warlord Games is the company that's probably most best known for Bolt Action, which is a 28 millimeter World War II game. This is based off of the same rule set for the most part, but instead of it being historical World War II, you know, that kind of stuff, it is this what it was frequently known as weird World War II, where at some point the timeline splits, you know, like you're going along and it's 1938, 1939, whatever, and then, you know, the war starts, and then all of a sudden, like I said, in Konflikt 47, as I remember the lore, when we tested the atomic bomb, it tore this little rift in, and I don't know if it was this big or not, I don't know how big it was, but it was a rift that it tore where the explosion came up, and then I believe it was a radio signal that started coming out of there, and we started listening to it and then decoded it and then learned all kinds of cool new things about technology, jump packs and mechs and crazy plasma weapon type things and all this kind of stuff and whatever. And then that, of course, gave the Allies a huge advantage in World War II. And then, like I said, then because of that advantage, they nuked Dresden before, because it was ahead of time, because, again, the timeline now is shifted because of these changes. And then in doing that, then it tore a little rift over there in Germany, and then the Germans started getting information through this hole, and then so now it's, you know, like super soldiers versus super soldiers type of thing, or mechs versus mechs, and laser tanks and werewolves and all kinds of junk like that. So, but this is the new edition that's coming out, Konflikt 47. This is the second or third. I actually don't remember. And I've always been interested, and I had a bunch of stuff that I bought for it back previous edition, but then it was like it never, like I didn't really know anybody else that had stuff for that. So, but I've always been interested. I had a conversation with the lead designer at Adepticon back in March, and they reached out. Warlord reached out to me like a month ago and was like, "Hey, do you want to? We can send you a copy of the starter box." Kind of early because it's in pre-order right now. And so it showed up like I said, either Wednesday or Thursday, I think. So is this Konflikt 47 a standalone starter, or do you need to get the bolt action rule set as a prerequisite? No, they're not. They're not attached. I was concerned about that because that wasn't the case in the last edition. In the last edition, Konflikt 47 was its own standalone. It just used a lot of the same rules, but you did not have to like have the bolt action book, and then it wasn't like a supplement thing. But I don't know, from someplace online, and you should never trust what you hear online, evidently, but from someplace online, I heard late part of last year, early part of this year, that was maybe going to be the case, where you're going to have to buy the bolt action book and then buy the Konflikt 47 book. And I was like, well, that sucks. But then I talked to basically the design lead, and he was at Adepticon, and he was like, no, that's not the case. I'm like, oh, good. So, yeah, this is a totally standalone game. Now, that being said, at least in the old version of the game, there were some models like, yeah, sure, you got laser tanks and werewolves, but sometimes you just need a guy with a Tommy gun. So the benefit is that you could then sometimes just buy regular old bolt action guys and then put them into your army because, but I don't know if that's going to be the case in this new edition. Like I said, I haven't really gotten a chance to look at it much yet. What's different between the new and the former edition? I have no idea, honestly. Like I said, I have. Oops, I keep clunking the mic. The book, I finally last night got it out of the bubble wrap that it was in, and I literally did one of these. That was about it. It's a nice book. It's really well. I mean, it's pretty layout. It's not boring. There's lots of cool pictures and stuff like that. And there's a decent amount of lore. They talk about the Japanese and the British and the Soviet bloc and the United States and, the Axis and all that fun stuff. So I'm looking forward to going through and checking it out. But like I said, their new kind of tagline is right here in the front. And it says, "This is not war, this is the end." So it's be very interesting to see the changes and things like that. But this is basically kind of where it started, and then inside there's a bunch of other stuff, which I can show you in a little bit. Let's see here. What's different between the new edition and the... Oh, I just read that. Uncle Adam, Army Painter customer service told me they're coming out with new brushes soon. Any time frame on those? I don't know the time frame, but they are coming out with new brushes. They are, I believe they're called bionic brushes. I think that's been announced. I hope it is. They are... I've been using them, and they're nice. So back like last spring, not last spring of 2025, spring of 2024, when us factory team folks, me and Sam and Phil and whatnot, we went over to Denmark. One of the things we were there to do was to do there was a lot of things we did. We made a lot of content, we did a bunch of things, but we also did some product testing and some product brainstorming and stuff like that. But they gave us a bunch of brushes to mess with. So we're all sitting there and painting, and the brushes all have different colored handles and all that kind of stuff. And basically we were supposed to take notes on which ones we liked and which ones we didn't and why and all that kind of stuff. And these brushes at the end, all of us were like, oh yeah. And the brushes weren't the same color. So like the brush that I had that was maybe had a red handle was the same brush as what Sam had as a yellow handle, but so we couldn't tell that we both had the same brush, even because they had different color handles and stuff like that. And we went through and did all the math and blah blah. And these brushes are going to be real nice. Like I said, I've been using them for the last month, 3 weeks to a month, and they're going to be real nice. So I'm looking forward to it, to people getting their hands on them. Let's see here. Test printing and designing FDM dungeon terrain here in Ontario, Canada. Neat. Good morning, Uncle Adam and chat. Checking in from Santa Cruz, California. I'm all set with my coffee and croissant. Ooh, croissant. Nice. Meat Treat, how you doing? Steve-O Hobbies, so hyped for this game. My starter set arrives today. Nice. Good morning from Surrey, UK. Really looking forward to my Konflikt box arriving tomorrow in the post. Very cool. Good morning from beautiful and sunny Junction City, Wisconsin. Hoping this show gives me a little motivation to start painting or modeling after a brief break. Absolutely. I hope it does too. Good morning from Austin, Texas. Working on my foot sergeants for Baron's War while I listen to today's broadcast. Cool. Happy Sunday from New York. Recovering from surgery today. Maybe some painting later if I'm up to it. Well, don't hurt yourself, but I hope the surgery went well. Motor Breath Jazz. Hello. How you doing? Morning from a rainy Southern California, building up Conquest and Trench Crusade. Thanks for all the great content. Well, absolutely. Thanks for watching. JC Puzols. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Greetings from somewhat Paris. There you go. Building chameleon skinks for maybe Warhammer the Old World, maybe just for one-page rules. I've been working on... a couple weeks ago, I did a video about how I actually finished an army, and it's because I did the... Robot Legion 1,000-point army from the Broken Truth box, which I think is going to go on GameFound crowdfunding very soon. And now I'm currently working on the Space Lizards, or the Splizzards, as I like to call them. So that's what I've been painting on Twitch lately. So I'm working on the first, 10 of them, and they're skinks, basically. They call them geckos, but they're skinks. And then there's going to be 2 squads of 10 bigger lizards, one with pistols, one with rifles, and then... 3 big guys with shoulder pad, they look like big crocodiles, but they have shoulder launching missile launchery things, and a bunch of other stuff. So there's I think there's 37 models in this army, and there were 40 in the other, which for most army games is not a lot, but it's still a decent amount. For me, it's on the high end of where I'm trying to go right now. Now, will I expand? Maybe. We'll see. That being said, so their 1,000-point lists for Grimdark Future, which is their science fiction version of their army game. They also have Grimdark Future Firefight, which is the science fiction version for their skirmish game, right? So Grimdark Future, 1,000 points. I've got one army painted now, the Robot Legion. Soon, well, eventually, maybe not soon, but eventually I'll have the second army painted. But looking at the Human Defense Force stats, which are basically kind of like Imperial Guard, I can use the Imperial Guard I already have done to build a 1,000-point army already. So that's already, we'll be at 3 armies. And then, and I was talking about this yesterday in the Patreon show, I'm also going to be doing another 1,000-point army of what they call Prime Brothers, which are basically Primaris Marines. And the reason I'm doing them is because they're already built. I built them back in 8th edition and then didn't ever paint them because I got annoyed with 8th edition, and then 9th edition came out, which annoyed me even more. And so they've been sitting in a box, probably in GW terms, near 2,000 points of models. And that's so I'll easily be able to make 1,000 points with some of those models, and then even eventually move them into a 2,000-point army for Grimdark Future from one-page rules if I want to. But I've been trying to figure out my paint scheme and stuff like that. I've been using Photoshop and everything. I was talking about that a little bit yesterday with the Patreon folks. Did you have a chance to look at the faction lists for Conflict 47? Seems they have made them free for download, so that's a big tick from me. I haven't really. I know that there are, well, let's see here. This is one of the few times, oh gosh, there's a lot of cool pictures. Like, they really have like stepped up their picture game. You know what I mean? Like, they definitely, I think, have taken a cue from GW where they do all those big things, and there's a lot of, because that's the thing, is that they'll just, yeah, okay, there's that one. But then, like, here's another one. That's pretty cool. And they have a big army basically after every faction in the book, because let's see here. Supplies, conventions of war, units, a turn. So there's the Axis. There's the United States, the British Commonwealth, the Soviet bloc, the Empire of Japan. And then I don't know what Staller is. Page 32. What is Staller? There's the Empire of Japan. I don't know what Staller is. It's just like a... They do have this whole... This goes on for a couple of pages, but it's basically kind of a timeline of explaining like what's going on and all this kind of stuff. So that's really interesting as well. I don't know if this book has like actual stats, or if you go online to get those. Maybe it does. It doesn't look, so far it doesn't look like I'm seeing like, oh, here's all the different stats for these guys and those guys and whatever. I mean, they have weapon lists. They've got a lot of rules about stuff, movement, rift dice, the turn, yeah, no, formations, units, basic supplies. I have a suspicion that if they were smart, they put all that stuff up on the internet. Because here's the deal, and everybody kind of knows this except for GW. If I don't have to buy a codex and I can just get the stats online, then A, the codex isn't basically useless as soon as I get it, because you've already started changing points. You can change points, whatever, and I just download a new list for free. And secondly, what I don't spend in books, I can spend on more models. So, anyway. Hi from surprisingly sunny South Wales. If anyone's interested in October's issue of Wargames Illustrated, has some free Conflict 47 on the cover. Neat. That's pretty cool. Have you painted your AP Owlbear yet? I don't work there. You know what I mean? Me and the rest of the factory team, like, kind of work. We're kind of basically sponsored, so we like work for them or with them, but we don't work there. But the folks who work actually at Army Painter, when we were there back in spring of 2024, like, you would walk up to someone's office, let's say, and they would have a little placard that would have their name, and then it would have a little picture of an owlbear model from, I think, WizKids. I'm not sure though. But and the idea is that you were supposed to paint the owlbear, and then they would take a photo of it and then put it next to you so you could see. And that was kind of just a thing that everybody had. But yeah, I haven't. We haven't done that. I don't know if that's even a thing. Like I said, for us in the Army Painter, factory team, I don't think it's a thing. But I would do one. It'd be fun. If they're plastic models, use a good quality plastic cement like Tamiya super thin, unless you're using dissimilar materials, plastic to metal or resin, or 100% resin to metal. Avoid super glue. I love super glue. I use CA glue all the time. I just really like it. I use it on pretty much everything. I know I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to use plastic cement. I hate plastic cement. Partially because it takes so long to set up, and also partially because I don't like the way that it melts things together. Because sometimes I'm like, you know what? That arm ain't going to work. And I need to just go and pop it off. And so, yeah, I've been like, Vince makes fun of me for not using plastic cement. I do use plastic cement on plastic terrain kits because terrain takes a lot of beating. So I will take the extra time and hold it and all that stuff and everything and yada yada. But for models, I always use CA glue. Good morning, everyone, from sunny Georgia. How you doing, Kelly? Went to Gigabytes yesterday and thought of you. Hope all is well. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've never been to Gigabytes, but I've always heard lots of things about it. It's a massive game store in Marietta, I believe, outside of Atlanta. It's like 10,000 square feet or something. Buenos dias from Albuquerque, working on the last few minis for Sunrot today for a convention game I'm running this week. Nice. I just got my copy of Sunrot last week, I think. Yeah. I think it was last week. Maybe it was last week Sunday. It like showed up on a Sunday, which normally you don't get packages on Sunday, but the U.S. Postal Service has been doing that on and off lately. And I'm pretty sure it was Sunday, but maybe it was Saturday. I don't remember. But yeah, I ordered both the base thing and the add-on. And I'm thinking about making a video about war games that are really more kind of like, they sort of straddle the line between war games and role-playing games. There's that one that I'm thinking about talking about, and then one I talked about yesterday in the Patreon show, which was called Wanted Reward CC 10,000. And it's basically a bounty hunter kind of game, but you can play it with the GM if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. You play it solo, you can play it co-op, but it is a sci-fi, basically kind of bounty hunter kind of game that's just a free, crazy thing. It's pretty neat. Let's see there. Good morning from rainy Chicago. How you doing? Hey, Uncle Adam, what range of minis do you recommend for Majestic 13? For the team or for the aliens? Good afternoon from dreary, overcast Sussex. How you doing? Good morning from Richmond, Virginia, and thanks again for signing my Tabletop Minion Battle Foam bag at Nova Open. Absolutely. Priming and painting up some Easterlings today for Middle Earth SPG. Cool. Very cool. Hello from Ontario. How you doing? New marketing tactic, actually trying marketing. Well, sort of. We're kind of giving it. I hate doing marketing as well. I'm burnt out enough, but I need to do it. Yeah, I mean, marketing is important. It really is. And we, like, it worked really well that first time when we came out of nowhere with Rain and Hell and just was like, hey, look at this. I mean, but I don't know that it's necessarily a thing that long term is is super smart. But, like that, we're trying something else. You know what I mean? You got to try. Speaking of the new game, will Armiger-sized models be too small? I saw several amazing ones from Papsecles and other yesterday after the irregulars. The thing is, if you find a model that's a 3D, something you're going to 3D print, you can just blow it up in your 3D printer. Just make it a little bigger. You know what I mean? Armigers. So this is 6 inches. Armigers are maybe a touch shorter than that. So, I mean, and again, this is suggested size. If you want to use Armigers, again, you're not gonna, nothing, no one's going to jail. You know what I mean? It's not a problem. But if you found a model that's cool, that is too short, and it's like, again, from My Mini Factory or Cults 3D or any of those places, and something you're going to 3D print, you could just like scale it up a little bit. Like, honestly, that's the model that I'm building right now for the game is, it's supposed to be about that big, and it is going to be a big moose. So yeah, that's also a big benefit, is just grabbing a model that you get, and just blow it up some. And then if you want to like maybe put some greeblies on it, if like like if it was supposed to be this big and you blow it up to 8 inches tall, it's not going to have all that much detail. Now, that being said, In the real world, stuff doesn't have that much detail, which sounds stupid when I say it like that. But what I mean is, when you see a spaceship from Star Wars, they're covered in all that crap, greeblies, all kinds of weird little stuff and everything. And there's somebody back in the day, 1977 or whatever, sitting there at ILM and just sticking weird little pieces from model kits all over the outside of the Millennium Falcon. And as a kid, even, I was like, isn't all that stuff really like, shouldn't it be on the inside? Like, that stuff is very, it's going to fall off. It's going to get hit by gunfire. Like, and the thing is that if you've ever been on a plane, they're not covered in all that stuff on the outside. They're not covered in all the greeblies and all the weird little piping and all that kind of stuff. That stuff's predominantly, if you take the skin off the airplane, then it looks like Millennium Falcon a little bit. But yeah. So if you take a mech and you blow it up bigger and you're like, well, it doesn't have as many greeblies and like that detail. Well, you can add some if you want to, but honestly, also really in the grand scheme of things, there shouldn't be too much stuff on the outside of the tank. You know what I mean? Like the armor should be with it. I don't know. Personal preference, I suppose. But yeah, for sure, you can, again, if it's not 6 inches, that's okay. You can, but that's our suggested size. We always like to tell people, hey, you can use this base size. If you want to go bigger or smaller, do so. It's not the end of the world, but we like to give suggested sizes. Honestly, all games give you suggested sizes, no matter how much they go, no, this is the size it's supposed to be. You'd be like, cool story, bro. I'm going to make it the size I want to. So yeah. Let's see here. Chrome Rangers is such a good name. I appreciate that. Thank you. Gundams, you certainly could. The story, I'll be perfectly frank with you. The storyline behind it is that these mechs were used in mining, and now because the big company has left, people are taking the mechs and refitting them to use them for defense and for attacking and things like that, or whatever. Depends on whether you're like a good guy or a bad guy. So like a super fancy, sleek, cool looking Gundam guy may not look like it's been doing a lot of mining. So again, knock yourself out, do what you want. That's fine. I'm personally a fan of looking for like chunkier, sort of like more industrial looking mechs, but you can absolutely use Gundam. You can use, again, like I said, Imperial Knights, like the Tau Storm Surge or whatever, all that kind of jazz. Good afternoon, Adam from Lake District, painting Spearhead Seraphon. Enjoyed your video with Vince. Have you since the vid from the Spearhead designer Sam? Have you since the vid? Have I seen? I'm assuming there's a word we're missing in there. The video from Spearhead designer Sam Pearson on his YouTube SPGD about game design. I think I did see a thumbnail, but didn't click on it. I think I saw a thumbnail of a guy named Sam that says, hey, I designed Spearhead or something, but I didn't watch it. Like Gamma Wolves. I don't know a ton about Gamma Wolves. I know that was Ash Barker, and it was printed through Osprey? Or Modifius. Osprey, I think. But I don't know, I remember seeing it and going, oh, that's interesting, but then I didn't know where I was going to get the robots from. So I've never, read it or played it or anything like that. But yeah. Where was I? Goodness, I'm way behind. Here we go. Make them from tiny sugar jellied sweets. Call them Gundams. Oh, gum. I get you. It's called Chrome Rangers, and it's not about armored robot squirrels. I mean, it's not. No. You can use Gundam, sure. Jet Jaguar action figure on my desk is top candidate. I mean, you could. You mean Robot Jocks? No, not Robot Jocks. Chrome Rangers battling the evil Edge Empire with their close allies, the Firefoxes. I'm not sure. I don't know if I get the reference. Sorry. Happy Sunday from Mobile, Alabama. How you doing, Steve? Interested to see what this game is about. Have scads of mecha kits. Yeah. So the other thing, like I said, is it's going to be one-on-one. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that sounds boring, just having a mech shooting another mech. But it's not, the play style is very different. It's very reactive. It's very... it's not just like BattleTech where you just walk up and shoot each other or anything like that. You know, I mean, like BattleTech's not necessarily just you walk up and shoot each other. You've got buildings and terrain and things like that, and you usually have multiple mechs that you're doing. But if you played like BattleTech where it was just one-on-one and you just shot at each other, you'd be like, well, that's not very exciting. The other benefit of doing it in 28 millimeter scale like this is then also you can just use your regular terrain that you have that's already 28 millimeter scale, you know, stuff. You could use stuff from 40K. You could use stuff from, I mean, you want it to look kind of sci-fi, but honestly, rocks, they don't have to look sci-fi. Like you could use anything you want, but you don't have to. Like the hard part for me is that once I got a bunch of, you know, Alpha Strike BattleTech miniatures painted, I then also had to figure out terrain because I couldn't use like 28 millimeter ruins because that'd look weird. So then it was like time to start sourcing terrain and figuring that out, which is not the end of the world, but we wanted to make it so that, like, for a lot of people, especially if you're a 40K player, you've probably got an Imperial Knight somewhere. And so we just really liked the idea of you being able to use the stuff you already have, but we do that all the time anyway. So, let's see here. Has Army Painter sent you the updated NDA? Yes, yes. It was funny. Coffee's a bit muddy. That's never fun. Hey, from rainy French Alps, perfect for painting minis. Nice. Haley, how you doing? My grandfather was a bubble gunner on a bomber in World War II. He got shot down over France and spent the rest of the war in a camp. You know? Technically, Trench Crusade is World War I. I mean, technically it's not, because it's technically still the original, the Great Crusade or whatever. It just never stopped. Super science. Let's see here. Checking in from Wilmington, Delaware, in a bit of creative lull painting building, but I got my rules for Rain and Iron, and it looks fun. Time to play. Nice. Very cool. Konflikt 47 is diesel punk. Yeah, basically, kinda. Except that it's got this rift tech stuff, which is why everybody's got this kind of, well, not everybody, but a lot of things have like this blue glow to them from the power. It's almost maybe like kind of like the Tesseract power in the whatever, not the Avengers movies, but the whatever, the Captain America movies. Last Medal of Honor recipient from World War II passed away in 2022. Local West Virginia man, Herschel W. Williams, my boss said, that met the man while serving in the Marines. Yeah, yeah. I saw a video about a weird Vietnam game in development a few months ago. There was a weird Vietnam game called, I don't know, it was supposed to be called Black Sun, and it was basically, the reason I was interested is because it was like Americans and Vietnamese. It was like three main factions. You had your Americans, you had your Vietnamese, and you had your fishmen. And that's what drew me to it, because I was like walking around it again. I think it was at Adepticon, and I was like, "Ooh, fishmen!" And then they were like, "Oh yeah, it's part of our Vietnam game called Black Sun and all that kind of stuff." And I'm like, "So this just you've got Marines versus Viet Cong versus fishmen?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Hmm." And I did buy some fishmen models. Good morning from Mexico. How you doing, Roberto? Good morning from New Hampshire, where the leaves are just beginning to change. Yeah, we got some here and there that are starting to go already. Chrome Ranger now have reason to get an XV-88 Tau battlesuit with a big railgun thing. I don't know if that'll be, well, I don't remember how big the XV-88 is, so that's a good question. Red Jungle. Well, Red Jungle is different than Black Sun. I think it's on GameFound. Interesting. Hello from overcast Yorktown, Virginia. Listening while I work. I also got the new edition of Konflikt 47. I'm actually building the old U.S. starter set right now. The new stuff will be here Tuesday. Nice. Konflikt Walker tanks for the apocalypse could be fun. Maybe. I can see that. What's your take on Core Space or Stargrave? I don't know really anything about Core Space, but Stargrave I do very much enjoy. Specifically the models. They're great. But the rule set's also fun too. It's not as much of a kind of straddling of miniature game and role-playing game as, say, something like Sunrot or that Wanted Reward game is. But there's a little bit of that in it because of just the way that you're kind of like, I feel like it's there a little bit more in Frostgrave than it is in Stargrave, but while playing Frostgrave and, like, you know, building your lists and things like that, I sometimes get a feeling that just reminds me of back when I played D&D way back in the like 80s. Just a little bit about the way you're building your people and kind of building up their stats and stuff like that. But Stargrave's a great game. I really enjoy Stargrave, and you know, Osprey is like gone hard on it, and they've got tons and tons of models and tons of books and stuff like that if you want to go down that road. But you can also just buy the main book and buy some models or use models you already have or whatever, and it's got a great kind of vibe to it. It can definitely be miniature agnostic, but on the other hand, it also, you can use their models if you want to. Honestly, I use their models all the time. I mean, the video that went up on Friday, I was talking about the automatons, which are Stargrave models. This is a frame of the automatons, and they're basically kind of like 40k servitors, but the storyline makes them sound almost like more like Borg, like the Borg from Star Trek. But anyway. Did the same thing at my parents' house after my dad passed and we moved my mom into a assisted living facility. I know the experience. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Let's see here. Greetings from Sarnia, Ontario. How are you doing? Good morning from good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. I overslept. What did I miss? You know, just stuff. Good morning from St. Jerome, Canada. Yesterday, I had the chance of taking a class on painting true metallic metal and OSL. I also walked into Sam Lenz. He's super chill. Yes, Sam is very super chill, and he's on a tour right now, and he's teaching classes all over, like mostly, well, right now in Canada. Yeah. Good morning. Hope all is going well. Starting to paint my Human Defense Force army from One Page Rules. I was talking to Jefferson from One Page Rules when he was here in town for Tabletop Minions Expo, earlier part of June. Oh, by the way, June 13th and 14th. I haven't updated the website yet, but I will soon. June 13th and 14th, 2026. That is going to be Tabletop Minions Expo for next year. That got the date nailed down. Usually do first weekend in June, but somebody beat me to it and got their wedding in the place on Saturdays, and so we couldn't do it on the first weekend, so we have to do the second weekend. So yeah, so that's just coming forward. Anyway, I was talking with Jefferson. Jefferson said the Human Defense Force models are the best sellers by far right now. Like for a long time, like Robot Legions was popular and this was popular and all that kind of stuff. And then when they came out with that new line of the Human Defense Force models for Grimdark Future, he's like, those just, everything else is in like 8th place basically. And I was like, oh wow, okay, that's very cool. Conflict 47 has mechs that would absolutely work for Chrome Rangers, potentially, yeah. They're definitely kind of that chunkiness that's going. That's not a bad thing. Never believe the fake quotes you read online. Abraham Lincoln. No, it's as true today as when he said it back in the 1800s. By designer read, do you mean you talked to Andy Chambers? No, Peter something. Not Andy Chambers. I've talked to Andy Chambers years and years ago at Adepticon, but I haven't talked to him in a long time. I know he's, maybe it's not the designer, maybe it's the lead. Technically, it's head of product and marketing. So yeah, head of product and marketing. Peter Gosling is the person that I talked to at Adepticon. This edition was written by Andy Chambers, Roger Garish, Dan Hewitson, Bill King, Cam Rogers, Gav Thorpe, Marcus Vine, and then Addy Wood, A-D-Y is the first name. But yeah, Peter Gosling is head of product and marketing. And that's the person that he was the guy that was like running the events and stuff like that at Adepticon, and I think Gen Con, but I talked to him at Adepticon. Still use bolt action kits that released the army list the other day. Nice. Did you see Sam Pearson's video about Spearhead? I didn't. I didn't even know who he was. See, I thought that the guy who did Spearhead was the guy who did the new edition of AOS, who's a Canadian guy. I can't think of his name. Real nice. Met him at Adepticon 2 years ago, I think. Let's see here. Gotta love game with free army list. I agree. Old Conflict 47 guys are smaller, new Conflict 47 guys are bigger. I mean, you see that a lot sometimes, yeah. Always loved the Firefly jump infantry models, but bought hard into dust when those models got clearanced out a few years ago. Yeah, the dust models are pretty cool. Bionic bristle ones, I'm looking forward to those. Yeah, those are the ones that I've been messing with. They're very nice. Can Conflict 47 be played solo? Is it a skirmish or army based? So I don't know if you can play solo. As far as where it is skirmish and army based, I'm not 100% sure at this point. The old version of Conflict 47, very much like Bolt Action, was usually you have about 20 guys and a vehicle. Now, I'm not sure if the new lists are exactly the same or not, but I would be surprised if they changed it drastically. So, I don't know. Like for me, 20 guys in a vehicle isn't skirmish, but it also isn't army either. It's like this sort of weird in between area. And again, like I said, with Conflict 47, I don't know if they've changed it drastically, but I will find out more once I start reading the book and going down that road. Greetings from Poland. A while ago, I got a set of Dust 47 with a walker and a group of mercenaries because it gave off an awesome tank girl vibe. Oh yeah, especially if you painted it that way, that'd be very cool. Might need to look up this new edition. Cool. Blue 9, how you doing? Also, I pulled up your skeleton painting video since I'm working on a Frostgrave Necromancer. Can't believe Cursed City was 4 years ago. I know, right? Yeah. Currently prepping the new Tomb World terrain here. Don't know how this is supposed to be revolutionary compared to the Galadark terrain. Just tell it as it is. It's just less stable. Yeah, the new Tomb World terrain I look at and I go, I didn't like the Galadark stuff. I mean, it was well done. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad sculpted or anything like that. I just don't want to play on a table full of walls like that generally. Like, I feel like it just builds a bunch of choke points and stuff, but whatever. And then when I saw they were doing it basically kind of again, but with like Necron-y looking stuff, I'm like, do we need to? I don't know. Anyway. Did you have to sign the extremely restrictive and mean Army Painter NDA? I haven't signed it yet, but it's pretty funny. Nice to hear I'm not the only one with the FDM printer going with terrain pieces this morning. Sure. Eric Lyons, are you going to PAX Unplugged? Ooh. I would like to go to PAX Unplugged, and I don't think we're going to this year. It's in November this year, which would make it easier for my wife and I to go. I would like to go, but it's between things with my mom, and my wife is currently still kind of looking for a new job after the job that she worked at the university for 27 years. They basically sold the bookstore to a different company outside the university, which is awesome. Anyway, so yeah, we're kind of up in the air as far as that's going right now, and so she didn't want to go, and I get it. It makes total sense. So hopefully, if they keep doing it in November, then maybe we can go next year. If they do PAX in December, then usually she can't go because it's closer to Christmas, and she's in this band where it's a choir. Technically, they play handbells, and it's kind of Christmas. Christmas is a busy time for them. So yeah, but the reason, like, she doesn't usually go with me to conventions too much, but the reason that it would be great for her to come with me to PAX Unplugged is because it's in Philadelphia and her sister lives in Philadelphia. So that would be nice. Let's see here. Call me Bob Ross, making tiny trees. Nice. Good afternoon from Naples. How you doing? New vampire one-page rules faction sounds awesome, but where did they get printed? I mean, I guess it depends on. I don't know what you mean. Where do they get printed? Or aren't the files up on My Mini Factory? Or do you say, well, so if usually on My Mini Factory, if you can buy something and get it printed, it gets printed by a company called Only Games, I believe. Onlygames.co maybe. So yeah. Good afternoon from Cork. Really looking forward to hearing your views on the set. Working on a Sharp model. Nice. PAX Unplugged, possibly. Been to a couple. Liked one. Wasn't crazy about the other. Not sure exactly why. We'll go if a friend or two decide to opt in. Won't go solo. Yeah. Going solo is sometimes kind of a bummer. Waiting to pick up my Legions Imperial starter set from my local store. Champing at the bit. Nice. Good morning from Southwest Virginia. I'm currently painting my Tyranids army while listening. Thanks for the Every Other Sunday show. Absolutely. Dave Walker of MS Paints just painted the full army for the new release box, a tempting offering of those models. They're very nice. They're really, I really like the Robot Legion. They were a ton of fun to paint, and the lizards look like they're going to be a lot of fun to paint as well. Waiting for a flight in North Carolina, but was able to finish the most recent Blitz Bowl box recently. Oh, nice. If I like Legions Imperialis, I'm going to buy a bunch of Armored Clash. The game looks cool. Nice. Started AdMech Army at the launch of 8th edition, and 9th edition came out before I finished a single squad. Well, it's Diesel Punk-like, and from what I've heard, similar to Konflikt 47's aesthetic, but epic scale. Well, I don't think it's epic scale, because, like, epic scale in my mind would mean they're really tiny, or unless you're talking about something else. Like, Konflikt 47 here, as far as the scale, here's the plastic. So, you get a little baggie, little pouch, and the reason is because, like Bolt Action and like Konflikt 47 last edition, it's a lot about putting dice into a bag and then pulling them out to figure out who goes next and that kind of thing. There is a play mat that is basically a big poster. How big is it? I don't know. Is it double? Well, it's double-sided. I don't know how big this is. I don't know. I could measure it, but, you know, it's about this big. But that's cool. And then there's like a little thing to protect some parts from the other parts. So these are the standard kind of explosion sprues. They're transparent plastic, and it's basically like a little explosion-y thing, and then you pop this out and you stick it into this little base, and then you can put that on top of a thing as AKA, you know, as in, you know, AKA this blowed up kind of thing. Let me see here. We've got some resin models, Firefly and Stahltruppen figures. Anyway, and then over here we got a bag of dice. Some of them look kind of like regular old bolt action dice. There's gray ones and green ones. Then there's some really small white six-siders, and then there's some other ones in here which I think are called Rift dice, which are, they have like these weird little, this weird little kind of symbol on it, and then yeah, so there's more dice than there were in the last Konflikt 47. Some bases. I should probably actually use their bases. I have a tendency to always just use GW style bases because I prefer them. But with these guys, I might want to actually use their bases. So here, these are Konflikt 47 Axis Stahltruppen. Decent looking detail. Warlord Games. I wonder if they're getting these made by the same people who are making, I don't know who's making Frostgrave and Star. Oh, well, it'd be North Star Military. Yeah, I wonder if they're working with North Star. Maybe not. The reason is because right here, and I don't think you can see it, right here it says Stargrave Automatons, and the font is very kind of specific, and it looks very much like the font that's written on these frames here, Konflikt47.com, and all the numbers and stuff like that. It's just, it's not the font that you would normally see on a sprue. It's like a bolder kind of block letter font, but these are identical fonts, and I do wonder if maybe it's the same manufacturer. I don't know. But, I mean, it's not the absolute highest detail, but also I don't need it to be the absolute highest detail. They are nice. Sonic Sledgehammer just recently painted, I think, one of these Stahltruppen guys, and did a guide about it, and they look nice. So check out Sonic Sledgehammer on YouTube. This is another one. Is it identical? Indeed. So you get two sprues of that. And then here we have some Konflikt 47 US Fireflies, who are smaller guys. They're not in power armor, but they have jump packs. So that's pretty cool. And there are, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 wastes on this, which means that, well, there's a lot more heads. But yeah, so there's, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So one of these sprues does 9 dudes. The Stahltruppen, you get 5, because you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5, 10. There's 9 on here. Oh, some dice got out of the bag. There's 9 on here. So you're getting basically two sprues of Stahltruppen and 2 thingies of the Fireflies. And then, let's see, in this little plastic bag, this is the little mech walker that's the Axis mech walker that walks like on little spider legs, kind of. And then this over here is this I'm pretty sure is the American mech, which I forget what it's called. The linebacker, yeah. And so that's all that stuff for that. Oh, okay. From the pictures, I thought this stuff was I thought this terrain was cardboard. I thought it was printed cardboard terrain from the pictures, because I didn't like blow it up. I just saw the thumbnail on their website. But this is actually all nice plastic. These are nice little ruins. Nice. And you get 4 sprues of that. So we got 4 sprues of ruins, which are they identical? Identical. Yep. And then this is like little tokens and measuring things, and the tokens kind of look like dog tags, sort of. And then there's these big circles and stuff like that. And what else? Got some bases. Packed for you by Mirella. Oh, that's very nice, Mirella. And then there's a big base, probably for the linebacker. Oh, and super tiny little decals. Really small. Probably for little... Oh my god, those are tiny. For putting on probably shoulder pads of little tiny dudes. Yeah, wow. Crazy. Oh, and there's assembly guides too. Well, that's nice. So the Stahltruppen Heavy Infantry Assembly Guide. The U.S. Firefly Squad Assembly Guide. These are all fancy. The Vogelspinne. I don't think I'm saying that properly, but it's the tank that looks kind of like a spider. And then there's a guide for the linebacker jump walker. So these are all fancy, like full color. I mean, it's stuff, the artwork's basically black and white, but there are areas where you've got color, you know what I mean? And they're kind of showing you like, maybe almost like painting stuff. They're showing you which, it's very in-depth. That's pretty cool. And then free getting started guide, konflikt47.com/downloads. So if you're interested in taking a look at that. Brand new to the game, not sure how to assemble your miniatures? Don't worry, we're here to help. There you go, boom. So we go to the downloads. Let's see, there's a much larger kind of walkie tank thing. There's a plasma gun tank, that's pretty cool. There's, I think, zombies. That just like, yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff. So anyway, that's the stuff that came in the box. And so you basically have an Axis tank and an ally kind of mech thingy, and then you have like 10 power armor guys versus like, I think 18 of the jump pack dudes. So again, that's the starter. Double page photo spreads, indeed. Keeping my eyes peeled for the October issue of Wargames Vault for this free sprues. Nice. Have you hugged an owlbear? I have a owlbear stuffed animal. Fortunately, GW's ridiculous prices have made me slow down my plastic pile of shame and my bookcases of hardbound regrets. Hardbound regrets. I do enjoy the term hardbound regrets. I prefer the gel type of super glue. Gives you a few extra seconds to adjust. Sure. Greetings from Colorado. I'd like to get into an Age of Sigmar style game, but I'm not sure where to start in the hobby. Can you offer any advice for a newbie? If you're looking for Age of Sigmar specifically, then you want to get into something called Spearhead. Spearhead is basically small scale, like not like the guys don't get smaller. It's just fewer. You don't need an entire army. You need a smaller mini army, and you play on a 22 by 30 inch board and all that kind of stuff. So Spearhead is where you want to start if you're interested in getting into Age of Sigmar. Now, if you just want something that's like Age of Sigmar, but even cheaper and easier, then I would tell you to look at One Page Rules. They have a game called Age of Fantasy, which is Age of Fantasy is the army game, and then they have also Age of Fantasy Skirmish, which is the skirmish game. A skirmish game usually means 5 to 10, maybe 15 models as your entire group, and they act differently. In army games, you usually have squads. You got a squad of 10 guys, and they all got to stay a certain distance from each other and kind of move as a squad, right? You can rearrange how they're, like, they don't have to go like in a rectangle like in the old days or whatever, but you can kind of move them around as a blob, but they all have to stay within a certain distance of each other. In skirmish games, in skirmish games, most people are one-offs. They can walk around and go anywhere they want. They don't have to stay in cohesion, is what that's called. So skirmish games usually, like, I generally prefer skirmish games. I generally prefer 5 to 10 models. And, you know, in Grimdark Future Firefight, which is the sci-fi skirmish game from One Page Rules, you do have some models that are like in little mini squads of 3, and they have to stay near each other. But for the most part, stuff can like kind of walk around and get away from each other and stuff like that. Whereas in army games, usually the squads, each squad has to stay together as a blob. The squads can move away from each other, but they, you know, you're moving the squads around as blobs. And in skirmish games, you're usually not. In Spearhead, for Age of Sigmar, you do have squads, so it's still got that army game feel, but it's fewer models. Generally, a Spearhead box, which you can just buy the box from GW, they cost about $170, and then you get pretty much everything you need to play that Spearhead army. But then you generally also need to buy a Spearhead starter box that gives you the board and like the tokens and stuff like that, and some terrain too, usually. But yeah. Sorry I'm late. I want to say thanks, Uncle. I used your discount for a large Army Painter paint purchase. Nice. Yeah, I appreciate it. If you're interested, and if you're buying stuff from the Army Painter website, this does not work in stores, sadly, but if you're buying stuff from the Army Painter website, you can use code FACTORYUNCLE5. It's all one word, FACTORYUNCLE5, the number 5, not the letter, or not the word. And then you can get 5% off your entire order from Army Painter website. And it's also like an affiliate link, so it helps the channel as well. So thank you as well for using Factory Uncle 5. I should really make a thing that I can click the hit and then it pops up on the screen or something like that. But I have, unfortunately, not exactly had the time recently. Conflict armies are all on free PDF that will be updated with new releases. Nice. That's a super smart move, I think. I use plastic cement for plastic models, super glue for anything else. Gotcha. I use super glue all the time. Plastic cement is a no-go with bad ventilation. My wife getting dizzy the slightest smell of it. It is smelly. Yeah. I mean, honestly, CA glue can be a little smelly too, but I think plastic cement's a little bit smellier, at least in my opinion. Rangers of Shadowdeep is definitely a game that straddles skirmish and RPG. Yeah. Can you play with a GM, like a game master in Rangers of Shadowdeep? I don't remember if they have a set up for that. Meat treat. For both Majestic 13, but mainly the team. So for the, I was just talking about this yesterday, actually, in the Patreon show. Wargames Atlantic. So the one that I like to use is, here we go. Oh, that's the Trench Mercenaries. Sci-Fi Ranges, Iron Core. No. Down here. You recently viewed this. This is the force that I like to use for basically for Majestic 13. Excuse me. They're called Ura, and they are they're like military dudes, and they have weapons that look a little futuristic, but not crazy futuristic. And yeah, they're just really like, what I did with mine is I just painted them all like a dark gray, like all their fatigues and all their stuff. And rather than like, oh, I've got brown pouches and green things and black gloves and black boots, I just did everything in different dark kind of grays. And the idea behind that for Majestic 13, because it's a UFO style game, the idea is that these teams, when they show up and they're in these kind of black or very dark gray fatigues, people end up start thinking of them as like, oh, those are the men in black. You see what I'm saying? So it's actually just that they're part of these teams who are fighting against the aliens. But then people are like, I don't know, they were just a bunch of military guys in like black stuff. And that's where like the men in black thing starts from. So you can use any kind of military looking folks that you want. These are the ones that I like to use because you get like, I don't know, 20 or 24 dudes for $39. Yeah, 24 hard plastic soldiers can be equipped with a standard infantry rifles with underslung shotguns and a whole bunch of different stuff. You basically just get the same sprue like 4 times or something like that. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so you get 4 copies of this sprue. So it's the same type of thing that they do over at North Star Military Figures, where you're going to get the torso and the legs as one piece. You know, like you see here, you get the torso and the legs as one piece, and then you've got a bunch of heads and a bunch of arms and different weapons and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're playing Majestic 13, which if you are, it's one of my favorite games that we've made, and I really enjoy it, then I would definitely take a look at the Ura set. But any kind of like sort of pseudo modern military type stuff would work pretty well. Let's see here. Love to hear about Skirmish and wargames that mix role-playing as well. If you could give a list of variety of them, that vid, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, like I said, so far I've come across 2 that I want to talk about. I bloody love Army Painter's approach to stuff. They're good people. They are. They're very super good people. Morning from Texas. Loved your automaton video this week. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. 5 parsecs would be a good inclusion in a video about games that straddle the line between RPG and wargame. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I see VJ Morph answered the question long before I did, so that'll happen. I'm way behind. There we go. Okay. Skirmish, Painter, Texas, 5 parsecs. Rangers of Shadow Deep has a new booklet that is an RPG adventure and notes on how to use ROS in RPG mode. No kidding. Oh, that's pretty cool. When you ultramat your minis at the end, do you normally do 1 or 2 coats? Do you think your ultramat varnish and what is your ratio of thinning? I don't thin it. I just use the matte varnish that I use is this stuff from this little English company called Instar, INSTAR. And it's called like Varnish Plus or something like that. And I fire it through my airbrush. And it's usually like about 2 light coats. Like you do one, kind of let it dry, and you do another one. And that's what I do. I will sometimes put it on a little heavier around the edges of the rims of the bases, just because those have a tendency sometimes to get a little bit more damage or a little more, but with the regular normal models and stuff like that, I have a tendency to do it that way. And I just do it through my airbrush. Greeblies are for scale. I mean, I get that, but they just look weird. You know what I mean? Type of 3D printer to use to print miniatures. Do you use your Bamboo printer? So I have a Bamboo A1. I don't really use it for 28mm scale miniatures. I mostly use it for terrain, but I have used it for like bigger robots. The robot that I'm working on for Chrome Rangers was 3D printed by my friend Dave, and it's a resin thing. But I do want to try another robot that is FDM printed and see if I can, just not the exact same robot. So I'm not going to do like a 1-to-1 scale, like I made that video already where I had Dave print me this robot, this smaller robot. He's only maybe about 4 inches tall. So Dave printed me the robot in resin. If you're looking for people to print, it's bottleandspool.com. BOTTLE and AND spool, SPOOL.com. Bottle and Spool. He does 3D printing, FDM, and resin stuff. It's called Bottle and Spool because resin comes in a bottle and filament comes on a spool. Anyway, so when he printed me this robot, we did it in resin, and it is monstrous, and it's going to be heavy. I'm going to try to print another model just for fun and do it with FDM, but I'm not going to try to print the same model. Like I said, made that video last year, or maybe earlier this year, I forget now, where he printed me a model, a robot model, and then I printed the same one in FDM and then compare them. And honestly, at a foot distance, I can barely tell the difference. How many games rules are cool story, bro, but I'm going to do this if your opponent agrees. Sure. Greetings from rainy Finland. Which brushes do you use? My local art store just closed down, and I've bought many brushes there for years. Lately, I've been using the Army Painter ones. I love the Army Painter Monster brush, which is a bigger size brush, obviously. And then I love they have these dry brushes. They've got the big Masterclass dry brushes, which are big round guys like that. And those are cool. And then, but I've really been enjoying, they have small and large dry brushes, but they have the white handles, and they're like chisel shaped. I don't know. They're great for when you need to dry brush just a small area. Like, I don't want to get dry brush everywhere. I want to get just in this, like that was, without those brushes, it would have been incredibly difficult to paint the Robot Legions models that I did the way that I did, because I basically primed them black, and then I use the airbrush to do their cloaks to give them that cool kind of fade and all that kind of stuff. But then, of course, there's like lots of overspray that gets on their shoulder pads and the hunchback and the back of their heads and all that kind of stuff. So then I go back with some grim black speed paint, and I paint all the metal parts back to black again. And then it's time to go through and dry brush all of that with a color it's called True Brass. But I don't want to have it end up getting back onto the cloak that I just got finished with the airbrush, right? Like, you know, so using dry brushes that are that chisel shape, and you can kind of get them and direct them a lot more. I've been liking that a lot. But there's also these bionic brushes that Army Painter is going to be coming out with very soon. That, like I said, I've been messing with for a while now, and I really like them. Like we tested them last year, and we all really liked them. On the automaton tip from the video this week, the OPR STLs this month have some awesome dwarven constructs that fit the bill. Well, that's pretty cool. Every Battletech fan I know watched Robot Jox and Robot Wars growing up. If you know, you know. I think I have Robot Jox on Blu-ray. I think I do. I think I bought it on a whim some years ago from Amazon. I grabbed the Archon Studios Mammoth Walker from the Rampart line ready for Chrome Rangers. Yeah, that could work, yeah. Super affordable and a good build, and older mold than recent DNL stuff, so a little bit more gaps. Yeah. Gamma World was awesome when it was the original TSR from the late... Oh, yeah, Gamma World. I remember Gamma World, yeah. Let's see here. Loved Gamma World. My group got fragmented and distracted by teenage life. Well, that'll happen. I feel like I've missed something. New mech game? Yeah. Vince and I, the next game, so we do this, we do 2 publications a year. We do a big spring publication, which is a print-on-demand book. This is the first one, Rain in Hell. And they're black and white on the inside, and they're color cover, soft cover. This one is the cheapest one we ever did because it's like $16. But we also, this is the most expensive one we've ever done because it's 144 pages. That last one was only 64 pages. This one's called Majestic 13. But we've put out at this point now 5 different big books like this. There was Rain in Hell, there was Space Station Zero, Majestic 13, Death Wizards, and then this year was called Rain in Iron, which is basically a standalone sequel to Rain in Hell. You don't need Rain in Hell to play Rain in Iron. But starting in 2022, we started making these little zines, which are download only. They can't print them and send them to you because they're saddle stitch, which is folded and stapled. But you can download it and either have each page be its own separate page in the PDF, or there's a second version of the PDF where all the spreads are set up per page, so you could print it yourself and then just fold it up, and then boom, you got yourself a zine. It's pretty cool. Anyway, in these zines, we always put in like a little micro game and then some add-ons to some of our previous games. So this is the second one. This is the 2024 version, which has got a game in it called The Great Goblin Argle Bargle. Previous to this, the initial first issue back in 2023 had a game in it called Tanks for the Apocalypse. Snarl 2025 is going to come out in November, and it's been announced that the game that's going to be in Snarl 2025 is a mech game called Chrome Rangers. So that's hopefully got you all caught up there. Gundam. Gamma Wolves is a way to play with your Gundam models that doesn't have any connection to the TSR Gamma World. Oh. Gamma Wolves and Gamma World are two different... Yeah. Oh, that I knew. Yeah. Did I say Gamma World? Sorry. Let's see here. Would the Konflikt 47 walkers work in Chrome Rangers? The linebacker might, but it's also maybe a touch short. But yeah, I'm certainly... You could. Painting Frostgrave Demons and enjoying the show. Well, good to see it. I like those demons. They're fun. Core Space is more of a board game plus mini game with RPG elements. No kidding. Hope Sam's having a good time. My budget didn't have the flex for me to take the class when he was in Toronto. Yeah. Also noticed and approve of your new title card Sting including Beaska. Also noticed and approve of your new title card Sting intro, including Blue Sky links. Good news. Oh, right. Well, so I unfortunately haven't fixed it here yet. It's still down. It still shows Twitter, and I don't really use Twitter at all anymore. I have not deleted my account because I don't want somebody else to steal it or whatever. But yeah, but I need to fix that. I just keep forgetting to. But the normal on the videos, it's all Blue Sky over there. Black Sun is also a 28mm weird Vietnam War set in Cambodia by Crucible Crush. That's who it is. Yeah, and they're also, like I said, they got Fishman, so that's fun. After going down the Corvus Belly rabbit hole, I really wish they were easier to get in my local store. I mean, local stores have a tendency to carry what sells, which is a little bit of a, self-fulfilling proposition, because if you don't carry the stuff to sell it, then people can't buy it, and then, they don't buy it, and then you can't sell it, Peter at Warlord is a top bloke, worked with him for years before his move to Wargame Vault. Or wait, WG. Warlord Games. There we go. Let's see here. Sorry to hear about the bookstore. Hoping things level out soon for you guys to have some fun. Yeah, that would be. As soon as you say the handbells, all I can picture is California Raisin thing. I don't think I'm familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with California Raisins, but I don't remember them having handbells. Maybe. She's in a it's like usually handbell choirs are usually attached to some sort of church thing or something like that or whatever. But this is a community handbell choir. So they've put out a couple of albums. It's not like you can find them on Spotify or anything like that. They're not that big, but they've put out a couple of CDs. And on one of them they do a lot of more traditional stuff, but they also, on one of them they did Stairway to Heaven in handbells. I think, 98% sure. And then one of them, I think they did Inagata Devita. Let's see here. Making trees and scenery. I've fallen deep into the hole of architecture model videos as an alternative tutorial direction for scenery. Nice. Sorry, for one-page rules, do they print the minis or do you have to print them yourself? Oh, gotcha. So generally you print them yourself, but in many situations, so My Mini Factory is the name of the website where most people go to buy STL files to print themselves. But My Mini Factory bought a company called Only Games, so there's not everything on My Mini Factory, but a lot of things on My Mini Factory, you can go, I would like to buy this printed and have it shipped to me, please. And then you go to a different website and they go from there. But not every model on My Mini Factory is set up for that, evidently. And I don't know if the one-page rules ones are or not. So that's my best answer, unfortunately. Let's see here. Have you heard of a new game called Of Oil and Iron? No. The starter box that will be coming out soon for one-page rules, which is called Broken Truth, all those minis in there will be actually pre-manufactured. They'll be made out of something called hard PVC. So they'll be right. And the thing is, they won't be on sprues like this. They'll be already built and on bases for the most part. The biggest ones won't be on bases, and some of the biggest models won't be built, but the smallest models will already all be built, which is pretty cool. That's going to be going into crowdfunding, I think, on GameFound very soon. But it's called Broken Truth. Different than Broken Tooth. Rising the blast markers for Epic 40K, sure. Let's see here. I'm watching you while waiting for my old miniatures to paint new miniatures. Your old miniatures are painting new miniatures? Huh. That's pretty cool. Warlord has made leaps and bounds with their models. Yeah, I really do think so. Like, that was the kind of the problem. There was so many like metal miniatures that in the older versions, I was like, Good belated morning from Molly. How you doing, Molly? Looking at OPR stuff. Has anyone tried Grimdark Future War Fleets? I haven't tried War Fleets, but I do really enjoy the Grimdark Future and Grimdark Future Firefight. Don't think their molds made from the same place? Maybe. That could be. Fireflies the new paratroopers? Kinda, yeah. First game I saw of this was Weird War 2. Oh, Gearkrieg from Dreampod. Yeah. Dreampod 9. I remember Gearkrieg. Their models were in 15mm scale. Yeah. There was also a game. Oh, what the heck was it called? Like AEWW2 was an old. I remember that one being a weird World War II game. One of the first ones I remember seeing. Interested and definitely piqued by Konflikt 47, but then I look across my hobby room and see the bins of Dust Tactics and boxes of all my Reich Busters. Oh, the Reich Busters. Yeah. I wonder if you could use some of that stuff in the game. You maybe could, you know. I don't like the reuse of the name Firefly since the British had modified Sherman tanks of the same name. That's true. There was the Firefly tanks, which were the basically Shermans with the bigger barrels, I think, or longer barrels, or something like that. I remember that. I've been slowly making custom Totencorp, the Axis zombies. I'll be getting my starter set at the end of October. Nice. Konflikt absolutely had me at salute when I saw the spider tank. Glad I already knew a new edition was in the works, so I didn't buy anything at the event. Yeah, I get that. Looking for things to replace GW prices. Konflikt 47 does not do that. The prices are not like... I don't know. I don't know if they're not the cheapest. I'm not going to lie. Here. There we go. So this starter box that I just showed you here is $152 American. And then if you wanted to go just Axis starter army, it's $176. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Go away. Sorry. There we go. So it looks like you get basically like 5 zombie-looking dudes, 4 of the power armor guys. You get the spider tank, and then you get what looks to be a very large honkin' tank there. Let's see here. 1 Warlord Resident Axis Platoon Commander, exclusive to this set. I don't see the... Oh, that maybe is that guy there. And then you get 3 plastic Stalltroopen. You get 5 Nachtalben, and they're made out of resin. And then you get a plastic Vogelspinne, which is the light Panzer mech, and then you get 1 plastic Panzer IV. So this is the Panzer IV, evidently. And then it has a resin upgrade kit. And then you get some dice and some water slides. And so, yeah, so it's I mean, I don't know if the scale is right in this picture, because if it is, that thing is huge. So I don't know. It's an interesting price differentiation. And then over here, if you're going with the American starter set, again, $176, you're getting, let's see here. These are Fireflies, and it looks like there's 6 of them. And then you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are those also Fireflies? You're getting 12 plastic Fireflies. You're getting a platoon commander who's resin. You're getting 2 of the linebackers. And you're also getting the M5 Stuart. So you're getting a resin M5, or you're getting a plastic M5. No, it's a plastic M5 Stuart with a resin upgrade kit, which is probably just the barrel and stuff like that, and maybe some of the back part of the thing. But that's cool that it's a Stuart. I don't know. Back in the day, I used to play Flames of War, and my army was literally just Stuarts and Shermans. That's all I used as little infantry as possible. It was just all Stuarts and Shermans. So yeah. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then there's just infantry for $60. You get a bunch of those guys. I honestly feel like it's the bigger mechs are maybe a bit more expensive. I don't know. A bunch of different colors of rift dice. Let's see here. So there's I think some of these are older. Like here's a bunch of other stuff, and I don't know if these are going to be something that's going to go into the new game or if these are older because they have the older logo. You know what I mean? But yeah, some of this stuff is out of stock. That's not. Most of the stuff's in stock though. It looks like. So anyway, at the very least, I want to mess around with the starter. I want to paint the stuff up, and I want to figure things out. And like I said, when I first saw the picture, I thought, oh, that terrain is cardboard, but it's not. It's actual plastic, so that's pretty cool too. And there's a decent amount of it. So yeah, you get the resin Axis platoon commander, 6 plastic Stahltruppen, and you get a plastic Vogelspinne, and then you get a Warlord resin United States platoon commander. You get 12 Fireflies, and then you get the linebacker, and then you get dice and a bunch of other stuff and blah blah. Did they even mention the? I don't know if they even mentioned the terrain. They mentioned the paper gaming mat. I could just be passing over it. Plastic pin markers and templates, assembly guides. Anyway. Oh, right here. Plastic ruins, 4 plastic frames. Right, there you go. Okay. So anyway. But again, one of the benefits is that you don't have to buy the army lists because it says that the army lists are free online, which is, I think, a smart move. Stahltruppen is Steel Troopers, and Vogelspinne is Bird Spider. Well, that makes sense. I have made a decision to not buy any new miniatures until I finish painting all my current collection. I think it's a smart move. At my current rate, I can buy new minis in 2147. See, that'll be nice. Yeah, something to look forward to. For Rangers of Shadow Deep, he just released a rule set to have a GM. Nice, nice. New rules are due for Rangers of Shadow Deep. Gotcha. I did just see maybe some thumbnails about a new Rangers of Shadow Deep thing and just didn't watch them yet. Let's see here. To build 40k cultist militia type guys, does Frostgrave cultists and scavengers work well at Kit Bash? Oh yeah. All the different Frostgrave and, in my opinion, all the different Frostgrave and Stargrave models are totally mixed and matchable. Like, you could take, like, one of these, like, crazy... Like, which one's the one that's got the metal legs? Because this guy's got feet... Well, a couple of these guys, at least, on the 5 and the sprue, have metal legs. So you could then also give them the craziest looking, like, cultist, like, you know, Middle Ages dude head, and then give them, like... I don't know, an axe in one hand and a blaster in the other. I mean, you can totally mix and match and do a fun kit bash stuff with that stuff. Peachy did a kit bashing video recently that used cultist bodies with other stuff. Oh, absolutely. All of those models are spectacular. I think some of the best models in the game for kit bashing are the Frostgrave and Stargrave models, and then, in many situations, nearly everything from Necromunda. Like, I own so many Necromunda models because I'm like, well, those guys are going to be awesome for this and this and this. If I swap this guy's head out or if I put a different gun on him and all that kind of stuff. Like, kit bashing, you can see some stuff sometimes where you're like, that is an amazing kit bash. But you can also consider yourself a kit basher if you just do some head swaps. Like, I'm not here to gatekeep you and go, well, that's not really kit bashing. You just put a different gun on him. You put a different gun on him. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's just the way it kind of works, I think. At my cabin in Pine, Arizona, gaming all weekend. Glorious 9-hour game of Alpha Strike yesterday and trying our hand at Leviathans and Aliens. Another glorious day in the core today. Neat. That's very cool. Frostgrave and Stargrave Scalebell, you can kit bash and make some very cool stuff. Absolutely. Thanks for the automatons video. Looks like that to be great value. It's a really nice set. I like all the, like I said, I like all the Stargrave and Frostgrave stuff. I own a bunch of it. Looking at Malifaux mini sets right now, and some of them look amazing, but I haven't seen the rules yet. I played Malifaux in version 2. Yes. And I liked it, but I found sometimes the rules to be a bit confusing, but I generally liked the rule set. I liked the concept of using cards and doing all that kind of stuff. It wasn't just like, we're going to swap cards for dice or dice for cards. Instead, it was like, basically you would use the cards as dice, kind of. But the thing that you know is that unlike dice, you have no idea how many sixes you're going to roll on six-siders, right? That's the whole point of using dice. With cards, you know that there are 4 kings in there and 4 queens, right? So if you've been going through your deck and you've hit a bunch of queens, you might not. It's like knowing how many dice rolls you have of each number still available. So that allows you to have a little bit more of a strategical kind of thought process about it. Secondly, you get to have some cards in your hand, which are basically like pre-rolled dice. So if I'm trying to shoot you and I take a top card off the deck that is an 8, trying to shoot you, and you for defense take a 10, well, you're going to win, and I don't get to shoot you. But I have a jack in my hand, so it's like having an extra dice roll, and they call it cheating fate, where you can be like, I'm going to replace my 8 with a jack, which down beats your 9 or 10 or whatever, that kind of thing. So it's a neat system that way. I really do like it, but at least in 2nd edition, there were plenty of times when I was like, I don't understand what this means. Like, and again, I'm not bright, but I would just be like, I don't get this rule and that kind of stuff. And so I think they've tried to fix some of that stuff up, but the main reason that I unfortunately don't play Malifaux is just because there's I have never met another person anywhere near me who plays Malifaux. So, and I tried to get people to play, and I was like using, because I had multiple, crews, and was trying to get people to play, and it's just, But if you can find people in your local area, that's pretty cool. I may be finally reaching the critical mass of my dream army with the leftover bits from a couple North Star boxes. Nice. Why do I get interested in games since they are out of print? Seeing Konflikt 47 has me itching to try Warlord's 2000 AD line that is defunct. It is true, they are defunct, which is a bummer. I did get the Judge Dredd stuff, and I could still play that, That's the thing, is that when games are out of print, that's okay, because you can still, now you don't have to worry about new stuff coming out. You just get what you want, and then you've got it. Can confirm those chisel-shaped dry brushes are nice. I like them a lot. Feisty Crab Man, how you doing? Large part of my game I created, Radlands, was based on just the cover of Gamma World. Neat. That's pretty cool. Masking a few models. My old fingers don't want to cooperate with me. Yeah. Original D&D rulebooks were saddle-stitched before they went to hardcover. Oh yeah, the oldest D&D books were saddle-stitched. And the problem is that saddle-stitching is, the machines that do it are evidently fidgety, like kind of hard to mess with sometimes. So the company that we work with to do our games used to do saddle stitch, but they got rid of the machine some time ago. So that's why we can't sell printed versions technically of Snarl. So we just put them out there. It's like $8, and you either, again, just look at it on your phone or your iPad or your laptop or your whatever, page by page, or we give you all the spreads laid out in printer situations. So not just like page 4 and then page 5. It's like, you first start with page, let's say it was a 16-page thing, it would be page 16 and then page 1. No, page 1 and then page 16. And then the second page would be page 15 and then page 2. And then when you fold it, if you double side it and do all that stuff and fold it up, boom, you got a booklet. Whoops. I knocked off my, these are the two commanders, basically, which are made out of resin. It's decent looking resin. Got nice detail. The Firefly guy's got like furry collars on his flight jacket or whatever, and they come across. Broken teeth are absolutely the opposite of fun. Yes, yes. Morning from the West Coast. If all goes to plan, we will be playing Semantic Dead Zone today. Nice. Trench Crusade was a wildly successful Kickstarter with many fans, but the interviews I've seen with store owners is that there's no product for that game and they can't get it in stock to sell. Well, no, it doesn't. They don't have product. You know what I mean? Like, Trench Crusade is a free online game. Like, you can download the rules for free, and the models are all STLs for 3D printing currently. Now, the trick is, I'm 98% sure they're coming out with plastics. They didn't have any to sell at Nova, but there was an Army Painter Trench Crusade bundle that was a bundle of different paints that are good paints to work with in Trench Crusade. If you bought that bundle at Nova, then every day, I think at 2:30 or something like that, in the Hobby Haven, way down on the end of the Hobby Haven, they would have the spot, and if you showed up with the box and said, hey, I bought these, and then they would give you some of the new plastic miniatures, and then you could paint them. Or else they were already, no, I think they were actually already built. I don't think, but from what I understand, they are, and I haven't seen them yet, sadly. I have a big hair on my microphone. I haven't seen them yet, but they are working on plastics, which I assumed they would. They made so much money with that, the whole thing there. They made so much money with the crowdfund through Kickstarter. They'd be stupid not to make plastics. So plastics will be coming, and then they're also going to have a printed book, but they're still also going to have the free rules all the time. So they will start having stuff in stores eventually. But for right now, yeah, if you're a store, you've got nothing to sell for them. So I get it. But it's going to be something that you're going to see coming in the future. And if you don't want to wait that long, just get yourself some 3D printed models and download the free rules, or just kit bash. They have no problem with that. Like, they're absolutely, like, even if you go to a tournament, an official tournament run by them in the future, they're like, yeah, you could also just kit bash stuff. My friend Phil won the narrative tournament at Nova, and his stuff was all kit bashed, like GW stuff that he had built and tweaked and whatnot to make it work with the game. And Sam's Heretic Legion army is all kit bashed. Yeah. So you don't have to use their models if you don't want to. It's really cool. Problem with Only Games is that if you sell stuff, it is a separate from your regular My Mini Factory merchant, so you have to pay extra to sell them, and you aren't guaranteed to make money with it. Oh, wow, I hadn't heard about that. Store owners, therefore, cannot appease customers that come in asking about the game. I mean, I guess, yeah, I can see that. I mean, although you could be like, well, you know, you can download the rules for free, and then if you're looking for some models to kit bash, you could use these, like Chaos Cultists. You could use these Imperial Guard. You could use, there's like all kinds of things you could use. And again, all of this is also still currently, like right now, you can't buy stuff directly in that situation. You can buy STLs, but very soon, within the next year, I bet you're going to start seeing plastics in stores. Not obviously every store, because there's going to be stores that are like, well, it's not a Games Workshop thing, so I'm not going to keep it in stock. So the stores that are a little bit more like paying attention to that kind of thing and like interested in like the more slightly indie scene, they'll start carrying the plastics probably. Do the Konflikt minis have those odd, very flat bases with the raised rim? Yes. Yeah, so they're generally, and you guys can't see this, but they're pretty flat. And they do have a bit of a raised rim to them. I'll be honest, I generally like regular GW style bases, with the little on the sides and it's kind of hollow on the underside, but I might try using these anyway. Found a few of my late father's line-controlled airplane kits. I've been trying to build them. Balsa wood is aggravating to work with. Oh yeah, I remember those. Trench Crusade is a weird one. Wildly popular, relatively speaking, but yes, at this point, invisible to a game shop. Nothing to sell, even if they wanted to. Will be interesting to see long-term. Again, like I said, they're heading in that direction. I think if the game had raised less than $1 million on Kickstarter, which still would have been successful for them and everything, I think you wouldn't have ever bothered to see them go further than that much. They would have continued to make new things as STLs. They would have continued to make new written things and stuff like that. But because it did 6 to 7 million, and it was 3.3 initially, but then with all the add-ons and the late pledges, it's, from what I've heard, it's over 6 and heading towards $7 million. They've absolutely started moving forward on, like, yeah, we're going to make plastic kits on sprues and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that very soon, like, the fancy version of the book that's supposed to be to people, like, I didn't back the fancy version of the book. I backed the models, the STL files, for Heretic Legions and Trench Pilgrims, I think. And the terrain, and the weapons. Just the church ones and the hell ones, not the Sultan ones. But anyway, so I backed a bunch of the STL stuff. But I did not get the book because I don't want the book. I just want to download the rules for free. I want them to be the newest version of the rules all the time. I'm fine with that. I don't need the fancy book. But I know a lot of people like that thing. But the fancy book that's going to go to the crowdfunding people is going to be hardcover and probably very fancy. But they're also, from what I understand, they're also going to be releasing a soft cover, like, printed book that will be available through distribution in stores and stuff like that. Like, they're doing well enough that I don't think it's going to be that long before you start seeing stuff from Trench Crusade in stores. But at this point, they also kind of don't need to. You know what I mean? A little bit. But I'm pretty sure that is their final goal, or at least their next step, is they definitely want to head into that area. But I've been really enjoying Trench Crusade. I want to do the Black Grail next. I've got a squad of Trench Pilgrims that have all done and painted, and I want to do some Black Grail next, I think, because they're all, like, super kind of, like, gross and covered in tumors and kind of like Nurgle a little bit. You know what I mean? I accidentally broke a few of the smaller pieces. I have them pinned and trying to repair them so I don't have to cut out a new replacement piece. Painting Wargames Atlantic peasants and knights for the Death Wizards. Any suggestions for the required terrain on a small budget? Struggle to play without the immersion. I'm glad I've caught you live. Absolutely, Lord Canaldo. Honestly, any kinds of, like, little village houses, maybe even some, like... Is my copy of Death Wizards up here? No? Oh, it is. Hooray. Death Wizards. Basically, in the terrain area, you have ruins, shrines, swamps, forests, crags, village houses. That's pretty much about it. Oh, and pools. So pools, you got deep water pools, icy pools, quicksand, that kind of stuff. For village houses, you have a retired adventurer house, an abandoned shack, a grisly site. Crags are just basically a bunch of rocks. Crags are areas of jutting rocky terrain. Forests, you have Beasts in the Woods forest, Corpse forest, Fey circle. For swamps, you have Grasping Vines, Waters of Life, Fetid Swamp. Shrines, there are Shrine to Fallen Gods, Profane Shrines, Druidic Shrines. Like, you can get shrines. There's definitely a shrine kit from Reaper that's not very expensive. They also have, Reaper has a really nice, like a mausoleum that's also really cool. But Reaper's a good place to look for some of that stuff. Battlefront miniatures. They're based out of like New Zealand or whatever, but you can find them at a lot of stores. A lot of game stores carry Battlefront stuff. It's basically pre-painted, like ruins and hills and buildings and stuff like that. But take a look for those too. But otherwise, all that stuff you could scratch build too out of, like, pretty cheap stuff if you wanted to. It just takes a little bit extra time, but you get it to be exactly the way you want it to be. You know what I mean? Scratch build terrain is easy to do, but balsa airplanes is a whole different level of skills. Balsa is a whole different thing. Yeah, absolutely. I used the Frostgrave Knolls and gave them scavenger guns. Nice. I'm planning on making Quonset huts out of chock full of nuts steel coffee cans. That makes sense. I can see that. What's your verdict on Konflikt 47? I was curious if you're interested with if you'd be interested with your disinterest in bolt action or similar historicals. Well, this is not a historical game because there's jump pack guys and mechs. You know what I mean? So I'm more interested because of that. The models look pretty good. I'm very much looking forward to building and painting them. I want to go through the rules a little bit more, but I'm also very heartened by the fact that the army lists and stuff like that are all free downloads. I think that's a very smart move. I was concerned initially because I'd heard a rumor that to play Konflikt 47, you're going to have to buy the bolt action rules because they kind of use the same rule set, but that is not the case. So Konflikt 47 is its own standalone thing. And in the past, Konflikt 47, they were like, here's the Konflikt 47 book, and then here's another book and another book and another book. And you didn't need to buy them all, but it kind of helped to buy some of them for your faction and stuff like that. And it seems like they're kind of pulling away from that. They may come out with some other books that are more like lore oriented and things like that. That's cool. But I think the smarter thing really is for them to put the effort into models and getting people to buy more models. And one way you get people to buy more models is you sell them fewer books, generally. You think you'll ever just do a yearly sub for Snarl? I do a similar thing for Olive Oil. Every 3 months they send me a new tin, and it's great. Printed zine every quarter would be awesome. The problem is we'd have to find a manufacturer to do the printing and do it that way. And I mean, that's not hard. It's not a difficult thing to print a saddle stitch. It's just not something that the company that we work with does anymore. They only do like the type of book like this. This is what they call perfect bound. So it's this squared off soft cover and all the pages are glued in there. Saddle stitch is basically the book is like folded and then there's staples, which sometimes are directly on the where they're supposed to be, and sometimes I miss them a little bit and they're not quite. But think like comic books. Comic books are saddle stitched, and this is saddle stitched. I don't know. We've tried to figure out some ways to do it. I don't know that subscription's the way we want to do it. I don't want to have to deal with that. I also kind of hate how nearly every damn piece of software these days is subscription based, and I'll just prefer to sell you but I don't know. So something to think about. We might someday try to find like another printer, and so be like, hey, look, here's this. But if you want to buy it printed, then you can. But then if you buy it printed, then I don't know that we're gonna be able to send you the PDF. Yeah, it's a tough one. John Blanche sets are perfect for Trench Crusade. Oh yeah. The process of getting back into miniature games after nearly 20-year absence. Looking forward to kit bashing a warband for Forbidden Psalm. Forbidden Psalm's a hoot, so I have a good time with that. Corvus Games Train, how you doing? Whenever you speak of Phil, you have to qualify him using the term Trench Crusade World Champion Phil, the Glacial Geek. It's true. It's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that just happened at Nova. At Nova Open, they had their first ever like narrative event. I think there were 24 people, and my friend Phil from the Army Painter, factory team, Phil the Glacial Geek, he won with most victory points or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he got a plaque and everything. It was neat. Let's see here. Wouldn't anyone asking about Trench Crusade already have Googled it and know the score before going into a shop to ask about it? Seems like a retailer whinge to me. Whinge. Yeah, maybe, except that marketing doesn't always work down everybody. You know, I've told this story before where I was talking to these two guys at the game store one time, and they knew me from YouTube. And then they asked like what I was doing recently, like what stuff I was working on. And I was like, oh, I'm getting about done ready laying out our next game. And he's like, oh, you're making games? I'm like, yeah, we made a game. Our first game was called Rain in Hell. And one of the guys is like, wait, you made Rain in Hell? And I'm like, he's like, I own that. I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, and then our second game was Space Station Zero. And the other guy's like, you made Space Station Zero? I own. So both of them knew me from YouTube and also bought some of our games, did not know that it was the same. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about the games on our channel and stuff like that when the new ones come out, and you would think that people that watch us would be like, oh, okay, but, you know, On the other hand, when you go to Wargame Vault, the website, it just has bestsellers across the top. So you can show up and go, oh, Space Station Zero, that looks cool. Click it, buy it, and you don't realize that it's me and Vince because you don't look at the author information, and that's fine. But it, again, another quick story. Hank, who is the one of the main two guys that runs Adepticon, told me a story years ago about going into a game store in the Chicago area. This is back when Adepticon was still in the Chicago area. It was still in Schaumburg or Lombard. And he was talking to the guys about Adepticon, guys playing 40K, and they'd never heard of Adepticon. And so he's like, but it happens like 4 miles that way, and it's this big, huge like convention. They're like, oh, I never heard of it, you know. So marketing doesn't always work and get to everywhere. You hope it does, but there's always misses. So the concept that somebody heard about Trench Crusade from somebody else and then went to a store and said, how do I get into Trench Crusade? I could see a store owner being like, especially depending on the store and the area, if it's a bigger city, maybe they'd be like, ugh. But on the other hand, it's also potentially, I think that store owners have and I've got friends that are store owners. I think some store owners, and I understand this completely, are nervous about the fact that there are games out there that are getting popular that do not touch stores. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you about that. I fear to some degree. Like, we like to, if a store wants to carry our games, me and Vince, we have like a special like section of the website where they can go and sign up and then blah, 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 and we'll send them a code and they can order it. And there are stores that carry our games, but we don't go through distribution and we just don't. We could potentially try to go down that road if we wanted to, but honestly, you know, we don't. So I could see also potentially some stores being like, well, I don't like that Trench Crusade because I can't get it. Well, A, you will be able to, I think, eventually soon. And B, but if you tell people that it's bad or something like that, then when it does come out in plastic, well, then all of a sudden now you've either got to backtrack or just decide, well, we're not going to carry it or whatever. And then people will go and buy stuff elsewhere, you know? I don't know. I kind of like the bases included in the North Star sets. Well, the North Star ones are, I don't know. I'm not sure. I still just seem to prefer the regular old GW bases, but I have heard that another company made a plastic kits for them. So Wargames Atlantic, who make a lot of different stuff, they're a company that's, I think they're technically based out of the UK, but their manufacturing is all made in America, which is crazy. Anyway, they're working with Mini Wargaming, and they're making some Trench Crusade adjacent miniatures. Trench Missionaries, something like that. But I just heard about that recently. Jay over at Eons of Battles is a great promo guy for Trench Crusade. Oh yeah, Jay and I, Jay was at Nova, and we got to talk for quite a while. And Eons of Battle is making these really cool terrain stuff for Trench Crusade, 3D printable stuff, basically. There you go. Wargames Atlantic make Trench Missionaries. There you go. Nurgle Matthew, how you doing? Lots of good spooky terrain in stores this time of year as Halloween decorations. That's also true. You're not wrong. Not all store owners are that savvy with what's available and are worried about having products they can sell. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're a single store owner, employee, do everything, you know, you own the store, you also have to clean the bathrooms, you also have to stock the shelves, you also have to, you know, work with customers, and you have to order stuff and all that kind of things. It can be very hard to keep track of all the different things and all the different new little things that pop up and all that kind of stuff, which is why a lot of store owners are just like, I'm gonna buy GW. I know it sells. I'm going to put it on the shelves. But then people come in and go, oh, you don't have any Wargames Atlantic stuff? You don't have any Stargrave stuff? You don't have, and then they're like, no, we don't. Oh, okay, cool. And then, so it's a weird tightrope, I'll be very honest. Conflict 47 isn't historical? I mean, technically, no. I have a gallon of PVA glue I use with my terrain builds. Wow. Glad I made it for the last little bit. Cygnus Maximus, glad to have you here. I go through so much PVA. I never use PVA. I just never do. Maybe it's time for you and Vince to get your logo stamped firmly on the packaging documents for the games you make on the top of the Snarling Badger stamp. I don't know if it's worth it to some degree. I don't know. That's a good question. Like, because I don't know that we would sell any more if somebody who saw us on Wargame Vault also saw, like, they saw the game and they're like, that's a cool cover and a cool concept. I'm interested. Oh, and it's also by the Tabletop Minions guy with the bad hair. Yes, let's sign up for that. I don't know if that's going to help necessarily. Maybe it will. Like, it's smart of us, I think, to obviously market it to the people who watch our videos, so that that's a good thing, and we continue to do that, and we're trying to make it better. But I don't know that. I mean, maybe, I don't know. That's a good question. It's the Scotch, and I have a picture of you and Vince on the back cover of my Snarl 3-ring binder, just in case. It's the Scotch and cigar black and white photo. Nice. We did take a photo this year at Nova that we're going to use in Snarl 2025. I just need to fix it. The lighting's not the best, but we were at a Mexican restaurant. Where are my pictures from Nova? Oh, that is not it. That is not it. Here we go. It's one of these. Might have to crop in a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, that was us at this Mexican restaurant outside. I should have taken more pictures or gotten someone to help us take more pictures or something like that while we were there. But it'll be fine. Help, I'm being marketed to. I mean, see, there you go. Working on some Otherworld minis, pig-headed orcs for my old school Essentials game. Nice. I prefer GW bases because you can glue washers or pennies underneath to make plastic models bottom heavy. Yeah, that is kind of nice. Also, I find that if you're playing on terrain and you're like having to put your person on a hill a little bit, having the hollow lip helps. Whereas if it's flat on the bottom, then they have a tendency to slide down hills. Now, I used to play a lot on the old Realm of Battle boards, and so that was actually useful. I don't really play on the old Realm of Battle boards anymore, so it doesn't, with the hills that are integrated, and the skulls underneath the surface. So that's probably not as big of a deal anymore, but maybe. Anyway, folks, it's 11 o'clock, and so I got to get going, because we are going to go to lunch at my in-laws, as per usual, and then I have to come home and edit a lot. I have to edit the podcast and get that ready to go for tomorrow. And then Vince and I have a meeting tonight, like we do pretty much every Sunday night. So that's my Sunday sorted. There'll also be some dinner in there as well. But thanks for coming by, everybody. Thanks for letting me show you a little bit of this cool box from Warlord. I'm looking forward to starting to build some models, honestly. Especially since they're not GW models, and that torso and waist part they aren't 7 pieces. They're like 1 piece. So that'll be fun to build. What else? Anything else? I don't know. That's pretty much about it. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And if you're interested, like I said, new episode of the podcast, the Snarlcast, with me and Vince, will go live tomorrow. About not 24 hours from now, maybe 23 hours from now, 22 hours, something like that. About 8 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. So you can find it there, check it out, and that's pretty much about it. So if you get the chance, do some hobby this weekend. If you can, and if you don't, if you don't get the chance or you don't get the ability to do or whatever, don't beat yourself up about it. Stay safe, and we'll see you again hopefully in 2 weeks. And thanks for watching.